John, you've spent an awful lot of time and effort preparing this new edition of the Couperin. In my lifetime, I've used at least 3 different editions before yours, and I have to say that yours is the most interesting and also the most thorough.
Thank you.
Of all of them. Can you tell us something about how you set about deciding on the final text, since in Couperin's case there are so many sources that are of interest?
Yes, it's a difficult question actually, because obviously when Alexandre Guillemot was doing the edition in 1906, he had access only to the Versailles manuscript. And the Versailles manuscript is, I think, probably a copy of an earlier version of the organ masses. And in fact, the Versailles is incomplete. There are bars missing, places where the left hand is missing altogether. So obviously it's not an authoritative text. So we have to actually look at the original edition, and of course it was handwritten. So we don't know how authoritative that is either, because when things are handwritten, then mistakes get into the text.
Which have you decided to use as your main text?
Well, it has to be Carpentras. But rather than say Carpentras is correct, I've decided that the other sources might have things in them that are correct as well.
So you've included all the alternatives?
I've included all the alternatives.
Well, I think that is very valuable. It's the only edition I think that has done that.
François Couperin was just 22. He would have been a fairly unknown quantity even at the age of 22 in Paris. So it's quite understandable that people would think that a more mature, sophisticated composer would have written these really mature, sophisticated works. Of course, we have in it things like minuets, we have passe-pieds, we have sarabands, we have overtures. So we have all these different dance styles and the latest fads that were going around at court. I mean, this is not like Louis Couperin's music, for example, which is sort of written in granite and almost impenetrable. We actually have this lovely, seductive sound. A surprise, I think, is the most important thing with François Couperin's music. A congregation in Saint-Gervais, when they heard Couperin, or another organist of Paris, who were professional and highly trained and skilled musicians, they must have been absolutely surprised by what they heard of these organ versets. Do you think it's important that pieces of music such as the Couperin organ masses should be played on instruments like this, or should we actually be looking for the authentic classical French sound?
Oh, we should be looking for the authentic French sound, but it's not always available, and this is a very good substitute.
But for people who, for example, want to play Couperin's music and they don't even have access to an instrument like this, should they not play the music?
That's a difficult question. I'd hate to say no, but they'll just have to use their good taste.
And what do you mean by good taste?
Well, if it works musically, there's no harm in playing it.
So, but For example, a tierce entaille when you don't have access to a tierce, or a crumhorn entaille when you don't have access to a crumhorn.
Yes, well, you know, it's hard to say that you shouldn't play it at all. Obviously, one shouldn't. It does need these special sounds, but if they're not available, the music still is. Can you say something about how the choir alternated their versets with those of the organists?
Yes, I mean this was a standard practice in the Catholic Church. It was going on right across Europe, but generally it was a choir singing a polyphonic piece in response to a short plain-song verset coming from a cantor or a priest. In France, that role changed slightly, and the organ became more and more prominent.
It's very useful that you have included all the Gregorian verses in the edition, as well as other things.
Well, I think it's important that musicians today get a chance to be able to see the music in perspective, and also it provides them with a chance to use the music in a liturgical situation, because you can play the 9 verses of the Gloria one after the other in a concert, but they actually have very little meaning. They're just nice pieces of music. But if you can actually sort of fit them in with somebody singing the plain song, then it provides the full shape of the piece.